Everybody keeps saying gaming is getting expensive because Sony wants more money. Microsoft keeps changing the plan. NVIDIA knows PC gamers have no self-respect. And Nintendo can put Mario on literally anything and will still line up like it's a religious event. And look, some of that is true, but I think there's a bigger problem happening in the background. Gaming isn't just getting more expensive. Gaming is getting outbid because the same hardware world that used to make your console cheaper over time, your GPU, your RAM, your SSD, your gaming laptop, your handheld, all of it, is now being pulled into the AI gold rush. And the scary part is, this is not like the old GPU shortage where scalpers bought up the cards and flipped them on eBay. This is bigger. This time, your competition is not some guy named Brandon with 14 Best Buy tabs open. Your competition is Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, OpenAI, every cloud company, every AI startup, and every company on earth trying to build a chatbot, an AI agent, or a robot intern that can summarize meetings nobody wanted to attend in the first place. And you're standing there like, hey man, I just want to play Cyberpunk at 1440p. And the market's like, yeah, that's cute. Data centers have cash. Gamers aren't competing with scalpers anymore. Gamers are competing with data centers. What's up, y'all? I'm Kenny, and today I want to talk about something that a lot of gamers are feeling, but I don't think enough people are connecting yet. Consoles are getting more expensive, PC parts are getting weird again, RAM and SSD prices are acting disrespectful, graphics cards still don't feel normal, and somehow old consoles are getting price hikes instead of price cuts. That last part is insane, because back in the day, the longer a console was out, the cheaper it got. That was the whole deal. You waited a few years, bought the slim version, got a holiday bundle, got a free game, maybe got an extra controller, maybe got a weird special edition with a logo on it. Now, we're deep into a console generation and companies are like, actually, this same console costs more now. This same hardware costs more now. That's not normal. So the question is, why? And yes, there are a lot of answers. Inflation matters, tariffs can matter, exchange rates matter, corporate greed definitely matters, bad business decisions matter, supply chains matter, a ton of things matter. But the thing that makes this moment different is AI. Not AI like NPC has better dialogue, AI like giant data centers buying chips, memory, storage, power, cooling, advanced packaging, and manufacturing priority. AI like the consumer electronics market suddenly having to fight enterprise customers with much deeper pockets. So today I want to make the argument that gaming hardware is not just getting expensive in a normal way. AI is changing the economics underneath gaming, and gamers are starting to feel it. The entire consumer tech promise used to be simple. Wait long enough and the thing gets cheaper. The early adopters pay full price. The hardcore fans pay full price. The people who need it day one pay full price. Then a few years later, everybody else gets the better deal. That was the console cycle. Launch console, expensive. A few years later, cheaper. Slim model, even more cheap. Bundle, cheaper. Holiday sale, cheaper. That was the rhythm. But now we're in this weird era where the console is old, the games are still $70, the storage is expensive, the accessories are expensive, subscriptions are more expensive. The Xbox example is almost too perfect. Xbox announced that starting August 1st, 2026, console prices are going up worldwide $100 for the 512 gigabyte models and $150 for the 1 terabyte models. They also said they're sunsetting the 2 terabyte model, and they did not just blame market conditions in some vague PR way. They specifically said console storage and memory prices have increased by more than 2.5 times, and they expect another possible doubling by fall of 2027. That is wild. That is not the old console got a holiday bundle. That's the old console got inflation DLC. Old consoles are supposed to get cheaper, not get inflation DLC. But the story gets bigger than Xbox. Because the real question is not just, why is Microsoft raising prices? The real question is, What happens when gaming hardware has to compete with AI infrastructure? That's the conversation. Because the console's not magic, it's chips, memory, storage, cooling, packaging, logistics, retail margins, and business strategy. And when those parts get more expensive, the console business gets squeezed. This is where people sometimes oversimplify it. They hear AI is making gaming expensive, and they think that means, oh, AI companies bought all the GPUs. That's part of the story, but it's not the whole story. The bigger story is that AI is putting pressure on the same supply chain that consumer tech depends on: memory, storage, advanced chips, server parts, packaging capacity, manufacturing priority. And once that pressure spreads through the market, it doesn't only hit AI companies. It hits phones, it hits laptops, it hits cars, it hits consoles, it hits PC builders, it hits anybody who needs memory and storage. Reuters reported that Apple planned to raise prices because of rising memory and storage costs. And Tim Cook specifically pointed to AI data center demand, forcing consumer electronics companies to compete for limited memory supply. That matters because Apple is not some tiny company getting bullied by suppliers. Apple is, well, Apple. If Apple's saying, yeah, this memory situation is getting ugly, imagine where that leaves normal consumer electronics companies. Imagine where that leaves consoles. Imagine where that leaves the guy trying to build a decent PC without turning it into a 6-month financial journey. This is why the Xbox quote matters so much, because Microsoft basically said the quiet part out loud. Memory and storage costs are not behaving like normal consumer tech costs anymore. And consoles are especially sensitive to that because consoles are supposed to be the mass market hardware. You can't just keep making the box more expensive forever and still call it the affordable way to game. At some point, the cheap console starts looking like a gaming PC with fewer options. And that's the problem. Now, let's talk about NVIDIA. And I want to say this carefully because people get weird about this. NVIDIA still cares about gaming. They still make GPUs. They still make, gaming focused GPUs, right? They still push DLSS. They still show ray tracing demos. They still want PC gamers buying RTX cards. Gaming is still a huge business for them, but it's not the center of the company anymore, not financially anyway. In 2026, NVIDIA reported $215.9 billion in full-year revenue. Their data center business did $193.7 billion of those dollars. Gaming and AI PC did $16 billion. Let that sit for a second. Gaming did $16 billion. That is a monster business. But data center did $193.7 billion. So no, NVIDIA did not abandon gaming, but if you're asking where the company's gravity is now, well, the answer should be obvious. The money is in AI. The money is in data centers. The money is in selling hardware to companies that are building AI infrastructure at a scale gamers can never compete with. And when it comes down to it, the whole NVIDIA with gaming and NVIDIA with data centers, that's not a company having a side hustle. That's an AI infrastructure company that still has a gaming business at that point. NVIDIA did not abandon gaming, but gaming is not driving the bus anymore. And again, that does not make NVIDIA evil. If one customer wants to buy one graphics card and another customer wants to buy an entire building full of AI hardware, who do you think gets the priority? The gamer trying to stretch a GPU purchase across 3 paychecks, or the cloud company ordering enough hardware to make the power company nervous? This isn't personal. It's worse than personal. It's economics. Here's the part I think most gamers are missing. The real villain is not just the GPU. The real villain is actually the memory, because memory is everywhere. Your console needs memory. Your GPU needs VRAM. Your PC needs RAM, your SSD needs NAND, your phone needs memory, your laptop needs memory, your handheld needs memory, your car needs memory now because apparently cars think now. And AI systems are memory-hungry monsters. AI training needs high-end memory. AI inference needs a ton of memory. AI servers need memory. Data centers need storage. Enterprise customers want long-term supply. And memory manufacturers are going to prioritize the customers paying the most. TrendForce projected conventional DRAM contract prices to rise 58 to 63% quarter over quarter in Q2 2026, and NAND flash contract prices to rise 70 to 75% quarter over quarter. They specifically pointed to AI server demand, cloud providers securing supply through long-term agreements, and suppliers reallocating capacity toward server-related applications. TrendForce also reported that conventional DRAM contract prices rose approximately 93 to 98% quarter over quarter in Q1 2026, with suppliers prioritizing higher margin server applications. That is not a small fluctuation. That's not RAM is a little annoying this month. That is the kind of pricing movement that makes every hardware company start sweating. Reuters also reported that Samsung forecasts a huge profit jump driven by AI memory demand, and that memory prices kept climbing as AI spending moved beyond specialized high bandwidth memory into conventional DRAM and NAND. Citi Research estimated average selling prices for DRAM and NAND rose 44% and 53% quarter over quarter in Q2. So when people say, why is this console more expensive? Or why is this laptop more expensive? Or why did SSD prices get weird? This is a huge part of the answer. AI isn't floating in the cloud. The cloud is just somebody else's hardware. And that hardware is eating the supply chain. That is the line. That's the thing people need to understand. AI feels like software because we interact with it through a website or an app. But behind that app is physical stuff: chips, memory, storage, servers, networking, power, cooling, buildings. And when companies are building those systems at insane scale, normal consumer tech starts fighting for leftovers. Consoles are supposed to be the safe place. That's the whole pitch. PC gaming is chaos. PC gaming is drivers, settings, shader compilation. Why is the game using one CPU thread and some guy on Reddit telling you to undervolt your GPU like you're defusing a bomb? Consoles, on the other hand, are supposed to be simple. You buy the box, you plug in the box works for years, the box gets cheaper. That was the deal. But consoles are vulnerable because they have to hit a price point. A gaming PC can be whatever price it wants. You can build a budget PC, you can build a mid-range PC, you can build a monster PC. You can make terrible financial decisions with RGB and call it airflow. But a console has to feel like a console. It has to feel affordable enough for normal people. And historically, companies like Sony and Microsoft could sell hardware at thin margins or sometimes even at a loss because they made money back on games, subscriptions, accessories, platform fees, and services. Xbox even said in its price update that unlike phones, computers, speakers, or other consumer devices, consoles are typically not sold at profit, but for less than they cost to make. So when the components inside the console get more expensive, console makers have three bad options. Option 1, eat the cost. Option 2, raise the price. Option 3, cut the hardware. None of those feel good. If they eat the cost, investors get mad. If they raise the price, gamers get mad. If they cut the hardware, Digital Foundry gets mad, and then everybody gets mad. So this is where the next generation conversation gets uncomfortable. If current consoles are under price pressure this late in the generation, what does that mean for the next one? Are we heading toward $700 consoles, $800 consoles, $1,000 consoles, more financing, more refurbished programs, more affordable versions that quietly cut the storage? And before anyone says nobody would pay that, please look around. People said that about phones, people said that about GPUs, people said that about monitors, people said that about collector's editions, people said that about subscriptions too. The expensive version always shows up. The real question is whether the expensive version becomes the normal version. The nightmare isn't a $1,000 console existing. The nightmare is when the $1,000 console becomes the normal one, the regular one. Now, PC gamers might be watching this like console peasants are finally suffering. Nature is healing. Relax, because PC gamers are in this too, maybe even worse. The difference is console players buy one box and get mad at one price. PC gamers get betrayed one part at a time. GPU, expensive. RAM, expensive. SSD, whew, expensive. Motherboard, weirdly expensive for reasons nobody can explain without a 38-minute Buildzoid video. Power supply, more expensive. Case, $200 because it has airflow and some RGB. And for a while, the argument was if consoles get too expensive, just build a PC. Okay, build it with what? With what GPU? With what RAM? With what SSD? At what price? That escape route only works if PC components stay reasonable. But if AI demand is putting pressure on GPUs, memory, storage, manufacturing priority, and the high-end parts of the supply chain, then PC gaming does not automatically become the cheaper alternative. It becomes the enthusiast option again. And that sucks because PC gaming has been having a real moment. Steam is huge right now. Game Pass exists on PC. Handheld PCs are getting better. Companies are optimizing. OLED monitors are beautiful. DLSS and FSR makes games run better. Crossplay is more common. PC is more accessible than it used to be. But the hardware market keeps reminding people this hobby still has a cover charge. PC gaming used to be expensive because it was powerful. Now it's expensive because AI companies use the same parts. And that's why just wait for prices to come down feels less safe than it used to. Normally, waiting is good advice. Wait for the next generation. Wait for a sale. Wait for competition. Wait for drivers. Wait for Black Friday. Wait for the bundle. But in this market, waiting might mean that the better product arrives at a much worse price. That's the part that feels broken. Now, here's where this goes beyond hardware nerds, because if hardware gets more expensive, that affects game development too. Developers build games around the hardware people actually own, not the hardware people talk about online, not the GPU some dude has in his signature on a forum, the hardware that dude actually has. So if fewer people upgrade, if more people stay on older GPUs, if consoles get more expensive, if the next generation has a slower adoption curve, if mid-range hardware gets weaker because companies cut memory to hit price targets, then developers have to build around a messier hardware reality. That can mean longer cross-gen periods, more performance modes, more upscaling, more frame generation, more games leaning on reconstruction instead of native rendering, more cloud gaming talk, more handheld style compromises, more we optimize it later patches. And honestly, this might be part of why gaming feels so weird right now. We keep expecting the old school generational leap, but what if the industry can't afford a clean generational leap anymore? What if the next generation is less about brute force and more about tricks, upscaling, frame generation, cloud streaming, hybrid devices, subscription bundles, financing, refurbished hardware, digital only models, pro consoles for the people who can pay, and compromised boxes for everyone else? And I'm not saying all of that's bad. DLSS is amazing. Frame generation can be really impressive. Upscaling has come a long way. Optimization matters, but it's wild that the industry's answer to expensive hardware might be, don't worry, the machine will guess the missing frames. Gaming's future might not be stronger hardware for everyone. It might be expensive hardware for some people and smarter tricks for everyone else. That's a very different future than the one gamers were promised. Now, let's be fair. Is every gaming price increase AI's fault? No, that'd be too simple. Companies are still companies. If they can raise prices, they will try. If people keep paying, they will keep pushing. If subscriptions can go up, they'll go up. If a deluxe edition can become a super deluxe ultimate premium vault edition with 3 skins and a digital art book, they'll do that too. Corporate greed is still real. Inflation is real. Exchange rates are real. Tariffs are real. Bad planning is real. COVID-era supply chain damage did not just magically disappear. And some companies are absolutely using the moment as cover to raise prices. Sony raised PS5 prices in select markets in 2025 and cited a challenging economic environment, including high inflation and fluctuating exchange rates. So no, AI is not the only villain, but AI is the new force that changes the whole board. It's the difference between parts are expensive this year and the richest companies on earth are signing long-term deals for the same stuff consumer electronics need. That's the difference. AI companies are not buying one batch of hardware and going home. They're building infrastructure. They're building data centers. They're reserving supply. They're buying memory. They're buying GPUs. They're buying power. They're buying coding. They're buying land. They're buying the future. Meanwhile, gamers are arguing about whether a console should be $499 or $599. We're not in the same negotiation. Gamers are arguing over $50. AI companies are reserving the future. That's why this matters. So, what do we do with this? Because I don't want this video to just be doom posting. Here's what I think gamers should take away. First, stop assuming prices automatically get better with time. That's done. That used to be the safer advice. It's not guaranteed anymore. Second, pay attention to memory and storage. If you're building a PC, do not only watch GPU prices, watch RAM, watch SSDs, watch VRAM. Watch what console manufacturers are doing with storage. Watch whether cheaper models are actually cheaper or just cut down storage models. Third, Stop buying bad value hardware just because it's new. A new GPU with weak VRAM can age badly. A console with too little storage can feel annoying immediately. A gaming laptop with soldered compromises can become regret with some RGB on it. Fourth, used and refurbished hardware might become more important. Not everybody needs the newest thing. A smart used GPU, a well-priced older console, a Steam Deck style device, or a good 1440p setup might be smarter than chasing the newest box in a market that is actively disrespecting your wallet. Fifth, mid-range matters. The high-end buyer will always exist. There will always be someone buying the $2,000 GPU. There will always be someone buying the Pro console. There will always be someone buying the limited edition. There will always be someone with a setup that looks like it could break into the Pentagon. But the health of gaming is not measured by the richest enthusiast. It's measured by the normal player, the person who used to buy the console on sale, the person who used to build a decent PC for under $1,000, the person who wants to play games without applying for financing at checkout. That person is getting squeezed. And if that person gets squeezed too hard, gaming changes. The future of gaming is not decided by the guy with a $3,000 PC. It's decided by whether normal people can still afford to play. The reason this story matters is bigger than GPUs. It's about what happens when consumer technology has to compete with industrial scale AI demand. For the last 20 years, normal people benefited from the same tech progress that served phones, laptops, consoles, gaming PCs, creators, and regular consumers. Better chips got cheaper. Better memory got cheaper, better storage got cheaper, better screens got cheaper. That is how technology became normal. But now AI is turning parts of that supply chain into strategic infrastructure. And once something becomes infrastructure, normal people do not get first dibs. Cloud companies care, governments care, automakers care, investors care, enterprise customers care. Every company trying to automate something cares. And the gamer at home, we get the leftover economics. But that does not mean gaming dies. Gaming is too big to die, but gaming could become more divided. High-end gaming for people with money, good enough gaming for everybody else. Cloud gaming for people who can't afford the box. More subscriptions, more financing, more refurbished programs, more digital-only hardware, more pro models, more performance tricks, more long console generations because nobody wants to reset the price floor. Basically, the future of gaming may be less about what hardware can do and more about what hardware people can actually afford. That's the shift, and it's not as exciting as a new GPU keynote, but it might be more important. So yeah, when people say that gaming is getting expensive, they're not wrong, but I think the better question is, why is it getting expensive now? Why are old consoles getting price hikes instead of discounts? Why is memory suddenly the problem? Why do GPUs still feel weird? Why does every upgrade feel like it comes with a financial disclaimer? And the answer is not just because companies are greedy. I mean, they are greedy, but now they have a better excuse. Gaming hardware is being pulled into a bigger fight. A fight over chips, a fight over memory, a fight over storage, a fight over data centers, a fight over AI infrastructure. And gamers are not the biggest customer in that fight. Compared to AI companies, gamers are broke boys. That's the uncomfortable truth. So the next time you see a console price hike or RAM prices going crazy or a GPU that makes absolutely no sense for the money, don't just ask, why is this company doing this to gamers? Ask, who else is buying these parts? Because somewhere inside that AI data center spending spree is the price of your next console and maybe your next GPU, and maybe the reason your budget bill does not feel budget anymore. Gaming didn't just get expensive, gaming got outbid. Like the video if you like pain, subscribe if you are also emotionally attached to hardware you cannot afford, and tell me in the comments, do you think this is temporary or are we entering the era where gaming hardware never really gets cheap again? I hate that I even have to ask that.